Well, hello, Jill and Annabella. So wonderful to talk to you both. I'm so excited that we're here today.
Hi, Libby.
Hello,
Hello.
hello.
So some quick intros. Thank you for those of you who are joining us today. We're going to be talking about internships and whether you're an intern, parent of an intern, hiring an intern this summer, how to set those interns up for success. My name is Libby Magliolo. I help folks build better presentations. Also a professor at SMU and a co-founder with Jill of an internship support program. Jill, why don't you tell us a bit about who you are?
Absolutely. So in addition to working with you on our intern support program, I'm also a faculty member at SMU Cox teaching business communications, but I'm a former marketer who then moved into higher ed, working in higher ed administration, and now on this path in teaching and training, which I'm absolutely loving.
Wonderful. And Annabella, thank you so much for joining us. You and I have gotten a chance a bit to talk, but tell us who you are and what you do and how you came there. And we recently learned that you have an absolutely fascinating background. So tell us who you are and what you do.
So it's great to chat here with you both. My name's Annabella Goshen. I'm a college counselor, so I support students applying from the beginning to the end. So applying to college, the Common App essay, interviews, coaching them from A to Z so that everything's good to go.
Well, wonderful. And I know that you have some stories that you could tell us. So Jill and I recently did a big survey, and we surveyed former interns and intern managers. The biggest theme that we heard throughout is that interns during their summer internship, they're struggling with knowing what good looks like. Honestly, knowing how to be successful in that role and what that looks like. I'd love your reactions from having worked with students trying to navigate what is a hard but very structured process of admissions. Tell me your thoughts on what that says to you about interns are struggling to know what success looks like and how to succeed in a corporate internship.
So I think with this age and this age of AI and everything's online, it's hard to define success or really connect with somebody nowadays. So it's really something that we really need to focus on so that we can support whether it's an intern, a student, but really kind of getting back to maybe like old school approaches. Sometimes I have students that are telling me, oh, I need to apply to an internship. How should I begin? Or I have an interview. What do I do? What do I say? How do I present myself? They kind of lack that nowadays because we're so into technology, messaging, AI that we're not really as comfortable with face-to-face communication.
So totally different speed for them. And Jill and I have talked about this, and our theory, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, is that when we teach students in the classroom environment, they are required to do very rigorous coursework, but in a way it's very linear. That here's the syllabus, here's exactly how you're going to spend this semester with us, here's what's expected of you, here's the rubric on what good looks like, here's how to get help, here's how to do this. And then you shift to a corporate environment, and like you said, it's in person, it's a different mode, and it's not at all linear. There's not that intro of here's exactly what's expected of you, here's what good looks like, here's how you're graded, here's how to get help. And so it's this very different atmosphere that feels tough. So that's our theory as to one of the many reasons why switching from the academic environment to the corporate one is tough, but curious about your thoughts.
So I really feel that when you switch from the academic to the corporate world, we really are not sure how to pivot. It's an important transition, but sometimes even an academic environment will not set you up for success, will not teach you like this is how you have to promote yourself, talk in an interview, send a thank you note, and so on and so forth. And of course, there are great tools nowadays out there, but we really need to look for them. And I'm so grateful for both of you for doing this work because we really need this. Trust me, because I'm telling you this based on my experience with students. Like students are looking for these, are asking these questions, and they're curious because they don't receive this type of training, whether it's in high school, undergrad, or even grad school.
So where are they looking now? Where are they getting this information? Are they getting this information? Do they know that they have a gap, or is it they don't know what they don't know? Where are they turning? Is it ChatGPT for I don't have enough information from my boss and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to talk to somebody 20 years older than me. Do they know what they don't know, or are they getting this information from somewhere else?
So I think they don't really know what they don't know in the sense that they're kind of like, well, where should I begin? Or they haven't really been placed in those situations. And a lot of them are relying on ChatGPT, which is great. I've told them many times, like, okay, you have an internship soon. Tell AI, act as my internship interviewee. I want you to do a role play with me. Ask me these questions so that I can be ready for this interview, for example. But of course, we need to really feed into AI. We need to provide these prompts so that we can really receive the actual information.
For sure. I think there's a tendency, and I remember when I was going through college and all the op-eds were about how millennials are going to be the death of us all, and the millennials are killing everything, and we're terrible, and whatever. And so I think there's this trend of everyone looking at the next generation and saying, oh, well, they're generating all the problems and all of that. So talk to me about what you think intern managers should know about are interns these days, are they Gen Zers or are they alphas?
I think they're Gen Zers, but it depends. It varies. It depends also on the internship, because I'm having even students that are from 9th grade all the way to grad school that are getting these internships. So we do have a pretty wide spectrum, wide range of ages. So we do need to know what to offer or what they're looking for. And a lot of them are not as motivated by money. Obviously, it depends on the major. So Jill, you're into business. That was one of my majors too. So it also depends on the major as well. What is their motivation? What are they looking for as well?
9th grade, all I wanted was babysitting money to go to the mall that weekend. So good for them for being more motivated than I am. So what should managers know if they do have an undergraduate, a Gen Zer? What should they know about that generation and how to best coach and lead that generation of student?
So I think, and I know it's been discussed so many times, but I think the concept of COVID is really important, where we became really used to that flexibility of working from home or working remotely. So I feel that managers need to be equipped and ready to receive an offer or a negotiation saying, oh, what if I just come into the office 2 days a week? Previously, that was probably like unheard of. And nowadays I was just talking to this weekend somebody that has a really, really big corporation, and they were telling me that to find excellent interns or employees, they need to provide this flexibility, whether it's paid time off or remote work, because it's not that same culture of I'll be the first one there and I'll be the last one leaving and I'll be there every single day. Nowadays, people are actually saying, like, look, I have this work-life balance that I'm looking that I need to that you need to respect as well, and that matters.
Man, I heard one MBA offer got a signing bonus for their internship. How do you reconcile? So there's a very tough job market right now, and the stats that Jill and I have heard are quite dire in terms of interns converting to full-time offers. But then on the other hand, we hear companies doing all of these creative and crazy things to attract and retain interns. So how do you reconcile those two truths in your mind, that it's a bad job market right now, things are tough for interns, it's tough to even land the internship, but yet sounds like companies are bending over backwards to make sure those interns are happy. How do you reconcile those two things?
Yeah, so it's a pretty strategic dance where they're looking for really high quality interns, people that maybe have great experience, took excellent courses, or went to a great school, but then at the same time they're realizing that it's a two-way dance, a two-way game. Like, there's an interest in both sides. So that's why the potential hiree or the intern actually has this added value that they can now say, I would like to negotiate the signing bonus, the pay time off, or whatever it is.
So everyone, and Jill and I know this from the MBA world, that everyone is fighting for the best intern. So that top 10, 15, 20%, everyone is fighting for. Jill, I'm curious, during your time in admissions, did you see a trend start to change? Was there a sea change at any point of we're seeing this next generation is behaving differently, or we start to see some characteristics. Did you see any of that during your time in admissions?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, COVID, as we talked about, as Annabella referenced, was a huge turning point. I think what we saw coming out of COVID was students, again, and it's hard to say if it was due to COVID or more generationally, but being really specific and particular about what they wanted. And if they weren't going to get that in this experience, then it wasn't for them. Whereas I think earlier on, previous generations more had the attitude of, I'm so lucky to be here. Whatever you say, I'll do it. Let's go. And now there was a lot more pressure on schools, on corporations, to really make sure everything was highly customizable.
Yeah, and that really resonates with what I'm seeing nowadays. I'm seeing students that are telling me like, oh, but wait, I actually have this vacation coming up, or I need this, or this is part of my needs. So I think companies are realizing they're becoming aware of these needs.
And so I think it'll be really interesting to see, and Libby, you mentioned the economy. I mean, this is something we talk about in admissions all the time. What's going on right now economically, this will be the first, I don't know what we're calling it, a downtrend, a coming recession, whatever is going to happen. This will be really the first turn that this generation of students have seen. They entered the workforce well after 2008. So they haven't lived a lot of that experience where you are fighting for spots, where you are worried that if you don't show up, the first one in, last one out. And if you're not asking the question of, okay, jump how high, you might get let go. And so I think it'll be really interesting over the summer as well to see if those internship conversion rates stay where they were, or if we're seeing some contraction. It's definitely a time, I don't want to feed the anxiety, but I mean, it makes me grateful that I'm not, in those shoes right now, because I do think it is going to be a little bit more competitive.
I agree. I hear someone's dog. Hello. I feel like during COVID,
my dog will be back in a second.
I feel like during COVID, I got to know everyone's dog, children, spouse, home office, and everything in between. And I kind of miss those days.
Sweet. You got to know what was going on pretty much with everybody.
You did. It kind of reset the expectations as far as what was professional and all that, which was lovely. So Jill, you and I last week talked about small talk, and when Annabella comes back, oh, there we go. I'm curious to talk about the soft skills. So Annabella, what would you tell, let's take one of your clients who has made it into college and they're in an internship. Tell me what advice you would give them around those soft skills, because Jill and I have a biased perspective on this, but we think that emotional intelligence and being able to show up and build a professional relationship, whether that just be small talk or a collaborative relationship or whatever that is, we think that's incredibly, incredibly important. And I don't know that I, as a 22-year-old, would have thought, well, I don't see how it's important to talk to a professional my dad's age about his fishing trip. I don't see how that has anything to do with my job. So what advice would you give folks heading into their internships right now? What advice would you give them about those soft skills and how important they are?
Okay, so in terms of soft skills, I always tell my students, everybody has a story, and it's a matter of you're relaying this information so that way it's all about connection. When an employer is hiring an intern or an employee, what they're looking for is, will this person be of added value? Will they be liked by the rest of the team? Will I want this person here, right? So talking about these stories, maybe even saying, hey, you know what? I name my dogs after desserts. That was Tiramisu barking right now because she loves to bark. And then maybe the employer will be like, oh, I also have a dog as well. So, and then you see with that, like the communication is really, really important. And then with that, and that includes sending a thank you note, like going above and beyond. So the person, one of my majors in backgrounds also has to do with marketing. So I know when I was studying marketing, it was always like, okay, a prospective client or a buyer will purchase this particular product once they've been exposed to X amount of times. So same thing here. If the employer will remember you, whether you sent that thank you note or you posted something on LinkedIn, or you mentioned something that they're going to be like, oh yeah, Annabella, that was the one with her chocolate, her dessert dog, and she spoke about XYZ. I feel that's going to get your foot in the door. The person might not remember, oh, okay, yeah, what were her technical skills? What were her soft or her hard skills? But she really was able to communicate really well, regardless of the industry or the type of job. And then with that, and I think all of that is connected to emotional intelligence. So how does a person say, how will they pivot? How will they problem solve? How will they communicate effectively to others?
Yes, I think that's so important. And Jill and I talked last week in our LinkedIn Live about just the ability to sit in a room without your phone in front of you with an individual you've never met before and be able to strike up a conversation. Because, like you said, we're not just hiring someone just for your technical skills. I want someone that I can spend a lot of time with and work in possibly difficult situations with. And so that skill is so important. And we have talked about as professors and working with students, we can remember first names and last names of every single student that has those exceptional skills because they stand out. They stand out so drastically, and employers are crawling all over themselves to hire those students, and they can kind of have their pick. It seems to go hand in hand with great technical skills and all of that, but they seem to stand out so much. So we talked about the soft skills. What are some other watch outs for interns? I know you and I joked about how I've heard the word crop top more than I'd like in these conversations. And so there maybe need to be some reminders about what professional or business casual looks like. So dress is a watch out, phone etiquette, AI. What else are you seeing as some pitfalls that interns may not register as a big deal, but their bosses are seeing as a very big deal?
So definitely the way you show up, the way you present yourself, whether it's the way you're dressed, and of course, like it depends on the industry. You don't have to wear a suit if that industry is not looking for somebody wearing a suit. But of course, like you always want to present yourself in a way that you're alert, you're not staring at your phone, you're not looking at your Apple Watch or whatever it is, that you really are present. Because at the end of the day, I know this can sound so corny, but I feel it's all about like how you make the person feel. So if if you're having a conversation and there's just meaning to it, that maybe at the end that the employer may ask you like, okay, so what questions do you have for me? You're not going to be like, I don't know, or no, but what would you recommend to your younger self that is looking for internships? Or how would you make this job more meaningful? Or what do you do here what would you recommend to a new hiree? Stuff like that. I highly recommend. So making that employer, it's all about like how you make that person feel, because we incorporate a lot of psychology in this. And then with that, being well dressed, being on time, the obvious, which sometimes are not so obvious in life.
Yes, they seem obvious, and I think part of that is because we all now are benefiting from retrospect, that we've had careers now where I cannot count on 20 hands the number of stupid things that I've done, but I've benefited from all those things. And so now I know how to show up and be polished and professional, but I didn't. And so we've talked a lot about how we're kind of judging interns on the things that has taken us 2 decades to learn. And so we think, well, it should be completely obvious that you don't do this at work, when in reality, it took, a talk from our partner back in consulting and an HR seminar and all these other things to learn what to do and what not to do. And so we're holding interns to this incredibly high standard of, well, you should know these things, when I was 22, I didn't know those things at all, and they have more complicated challenges to deal with these days. I'd love to shift just for a second and talk about the family role in this. Because I know that you work so closely with students, but you also work very closely with their parents. So should parents have any role in helping their student get ready for the internship? Should they be completely hands-off? What are your thoughts? What do you advise parents on of your student has a big internship, big deal this summer? What do you tell them of how best to set their student up for success?
So what I would do, so first I'm going to put the hat on as a parent. And even though I have younger kids, one thing that I'm constantly telling my kids, and I hope they're grateful for this, and if not, I'm so sorry if they look at this video 50 years from now or whatever. But I always tell them, you know what, figure it out. Like, I'm trying to instill independence in my kids. So if one of my kids is trying to open something or do something, or they're frustrating, I tell them, like, figure it out. Like, I'm not going to go there and try to like open it right away or do this. I want them to have that thought process. So when I'm recommending as a college counselor, when I'm recommending to parents what to do is to give students a little bit of autonomy, because I'm telling you, I could write a book from all of these stories that many times kindly I have to tell the parent, like, look, the student now is applying to this internship, to this, because sometimes I've had Zoom calls with the student, but then the parent is right there. I can't see the parent, but I can hear the parent, and then saying like, shh, no, now you have to say this. And it's like, wait, I can hear you. So providing this autonomy to students, but if the parent is proactive, but in a positive way, first set them up for success. One thing that I do with my kids from a young age is, okay, you want to go buy that cookie, go into the restaurant and buy that cookie by yourself. You like things like that. Like, don't overparent as well. And when they're older, it's like, okay, remember to send the thank you note. How did you, and maybe do like some type of role play. Like, okay, so what are you going to talk about? If the employer says, tell me about yourself, what are 3 things that you're going to say right away? You don't want to just start off with like, I don't know, but already have a game plan with like, okay, you know what? I was born in this place. I do this. This is like things that, and you want to say things that are strategic. So a parent should be proactive and kind of like have these conversations. Like, what values do you want to portray to this company? And maybe they're aligned with family values. And then with that, you could say like, okay, you know what? This is how I was raised. So parents could be supportive in a proactive stance. And if not, they need to figure it out.
Totally fair. And I've talked to some students who said, you know, my parents instilled in me amazing manners, but they had never had a corporate job. So they didn't know how to help me with that, but they did instill in me the social skills. And I think one thing we've touched on today is the need for students to be vulnerable and authentic, but in a professional way. I talked to a student and he said, man, I just partied so hard this weekend and I am super hungover today. It's like, okay, so we got the vulnerability. We did not do it in a professional way. So how about instead we say, oh, I went to an amazing concert this weekend. And so kind of presenting like the first date version of yourself of, yes, I want it to be me. Yes, I want to show up authentically, but I have to do it in a professional way that is fitting for this environment. Also, I heard the advice, this was from a mom of a 12-year-old, that they told the 12-year-olds had an event at the school, and they said, dress like you are going to meet the mayor. And I really liked that. We're in the South, so Jill and I hear church clothes a lot, but dress like you're going to meet the mayor, I think is really good advice, because then it suggests, you know, okay, we're going to be professional and polished and no athleisure or anything. Annabella, if you had to wrap it up with one piece of advice to give students as they're heading into their internship this summer, what would it be?
So this is something that I tell my students a lot. I love to drink matcha. I'm always drinking matcha. I love it. And at the same time, I'm Hispanic. So typically in Hispanic culture, it could be normal to arrive, depending on the social event, whether it's a dinner, you could arrive 20 minutes, 30 minutes late, depending on it. But what I tell my students is we always have to be there on time. But imagine if you get to the airport and you've passed through security, everything is seamless and everything's good to go. And you're like, wait, there's a Starbucks. I can actually purchase a matcha. I actually have the time. So same thing here. When we're talking about how to present yourself, try to get there ahead of time, that you could be like, oh, I actually can drink a matcha ahead of time, ahead of my call, my interview. That's how you have to present yourself in life, that you give yourself a little bit of that cushion. So you could be like, okay, maybe I'll replay that same information about who I am, or I'll prepare myself with this. So if you get there with like that mindset of, okay, I've been waiting, I'm ready, I'm present, you can apply that matcha theory, whether it's applying to college that you're doing it on time so that you can actually say, hey, I'm actually going to apply to one more college because I already wrote all my essays. Or you arrive at that internship, that interview, and you're going to be like, oh, actually, look, they saw that I'm here on time. I'm valuing their time as well. And same thing with life overall, that you're proactive. That's why, yes. And drink a matcha if you can. It's delicious. Or tea or whatever works.
where were you when I was 20 years old? Or, even after that, for that matter. Well, some quick plugs, and then we can wrap up. I'm giving us a second to think. One piece of career advice that we wish we had known sooner. We can finish with that. Jill and I are launching our program, the Return Offer Blueprint. This is for students headed into internships this summer, and we are teaching you every single thing that managers are judging you on, but you do not learn in school. We are teaching you how to turn that hard-fought internship into a return offer. So we have a webinar coming up Thursday that we're going to dive in deep there. So we would love to have you there. Annabella, where can folks find you if they want to work with you further?
So my website is annabellagoshen.com, ANNABELLAGOSHEN.com, or I like to make myself really accessible. So my number is 561-376-9030. I have Instagram. I've been playing around, providing tidbits, piece of advice, how to show up in life, anything that you need to do in life. So I'm happy to connect to anyone here.
Very cool. I'm going to start sending you memes. So
I love it. Likewise.
Look forward to those. Okay, last thing for each of us. I'm buying myself time now because I need to think of it. One piece of advice that you wish you had known earlier in your career. Jill, you have anything that comes to mind for you?
Oh, yeah. Earlier in my career, I think I thought that everything was super urgent, extra top priority. And I just really burnt myself out, stressed myself out. I'm sure people that were more experienced than me were chuckling, watching me. And not to say that you don't want to put pressure on yourself or meet deadlines, but I think the advice I would give myself is just give yourself a little bit more grace and do a better job really understanding that not everything can be the top priority, right? And that's okay. Just give yourself some grace.
So the piece of advice that I love that, Jill, by the way, the piece of advice that I wanted to, that I always think about is be kind to yourself. So if you land that job opportunity or whatever it is, fabulous. But if you don't, you can just make it a teachable moment. And then with that, and then just tell yourself that I love to read. I'm a book hoarder. So I was reading somewhere that we're constantly thinking in the sandbox approach. Which means that okay, we have our set of tools or set of people that we're playing with. But if you expand yourself, you can think oh, there's a whole beach ahead of me. Life is limitless. So once you learn how to be kind, you can get to a point that it's okay, what can I do with my life? What else can I do here? How can I pivot? How can I elevate myself? And it's limitless.
I love that. I'll close with, I wish I had known that no job, no project, no stop in your career is forever. And I wish I had known that and used things just to be as curious as possible. Back when I was in management consulting, I wish future Libby had come to me and said, hey, you're only going to be here for 3 years. So make sure you go around the company and talk to as many people as you can and just learn about who they are and what they do so you can massively expand your horizons and get a sense of what is out there. So I wish I had known that nothing is forever. It's not okay, this is day one of 45 years with the exact same company, the exact same desk. So I wish I had been curious and turned every job into a learning opportunity as much as I could. And I very much salute students who do this well. Annabelle, thank you so much for your time. Jill, you as well. This was so wonderful and I appreciate the insight, but thank you again for spending part of your day with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Libby and Jill.
Wonderful. Talk to you all later.
Bye.